to Transformative Principle, where I help you stop putting out fires and start leading. I am your host, Jethro Jones. You can follow me on Twitter at Jethro Jones. Welcome to Transformative Principle. This whole month of September, we are focusing on National Literacy Month across the entire B Podcast network. And we're partnering with RIF on this, and we're going to have people from RIF connected to RIF and people who have nothing to do with RIF, which is reading is fundamental, because literacy is so important, and we're just so excited to participate in this with them and share this. Today, I am joined by Jennifer Moone, who joined RIF in 2011. She is the Vice President of Marketing and Partnerships, and the reason why I wanted to have her on the show is because she is able to talk about all sorts of different things that RIF does to support people with literacy, from schools to communities to libraries to businesses and everything in between. She has, as I said, been with RIF for 13 years and has done a lot there to support RIF's community team and now helping with these partnerships. So Jennifer, welcome to Transformative Principles. So excited to have you.
Thanks so much. It's wonderful to be here to share with you. And as you mentioned, we are thrilled to be partnered with the Podcast Network for National Literacy Month. Such an important time and opportunity to shine a spotlight on the issue of literacy and children's literacy in particular.
Yeah, and I'm so excited about this partnership because in February, when I interviewed Dr. Erin Bailey, I had no idea before that RIF was even a thing, and just didn't know that this organization existed to help people do this. And as soon as I finished talking with her, I said, look, we got to figure out a way to do something together because literacy is so important. I was an English teacher before I became a principal, and as an English teacher, I understood that what I was actually teaching was communication, receiving communication, giving communication, and understanding communication. And I just love teaching people about reading and how to read and write and communicate effectively. And I just think that it's so powerful because once you can read, you can unlock anything else in the world. And today, like, we have YouTube and a bunch of things that will help you learn different things, but you still need to be able to read. And the next thing that's better than reading is speaking a second language, which just opens the world up even more. So I'm a huge advocate of literacy. Why is doing this partnership important to you and RIF, Jennifer?
Yeah, it's really an exciting partnership, and it's a great way for us, just as you said, to help people know that reading is fundamental is here. In fact, we've been here for nearly 6 decades, but, just to let them know that RIF is here, that we're committed to this cause, and that we offer a ton of free resources and free content for educators, families, volunteers who want to get involved and help support children's literacy right in their own backyards. And so I think this podcast really helps to shine a spotlight on the issue at a very key time, and helps to let folks know that there are tools and resources to help them support the children that they work with as a principal, as a teacher, and the families that they collaborate with. And so I think this is a great opportunity.
Yeah, and it's really easy to feel like you're on an island, that you're all alone. And you're not. When it comes to helping kids love reading, you got a great organization whose sole purpose is to help kids love reading. So I interviewed Dr. Bailey, and that was awesome. February of 2024. I encourage you to go listen to that because we talk about the joy of reading and how important that is. A great conversation that was super inspiring. We're going to get to my interview with Jennifer here in just a moment. So Jennifer, I think a good place to start would be talking about these partnerships that you create in communities and nationally to help push the mission of RIF. Do you want to talk about those a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to chat about that. So I think first it's interesting to define what RIF thinks of a community partner as. And so for us, we're thinking about these community groups and civic organizations and other like-minded literacy nonprofit organizations and youth serving organizations. So it's a pretty broad cast of characters, but we really are considering all the various players in a community and stakeholders in a child's life that they can all play a role and drive local literacy impact. So when we look at building these partnerships, you're exactly right. They are both at the national and the local level. From a national perspective, we're partnering with sort of the parent groups, things like National PTA or Kiwanis International, or past partnerships with the Association of Junior Leagues International, groups that are really have embraced literacy as a cause and have shown that they are committed to driving that work and supporting all their local chapters and affiliates. And then we can have that kind of deeper local level collaboration as well, where we have our sort of boots on the ground who are leveraging our content programs and resources to really support children in their communities.
So, with the idea of those community partnerships, RIF is a national organization. And so, how do you get small enough to be in a community and be supportive in that community?
That's a great question. As a national nonprofit, we do have this infrastructure that allows us national scope and scale, but really this localized impact and the ability to provide turnkey, customizable resources for our local partners in the communities and on the ground. So whether that's I'm going to give some couple of specific examples. It's your local Kiwanis club. They want to host a book drive. They want to do a read-aloud collaboration in a school or as part of a community event. We've got all the turnkey resources and toolkits so that they can take what we've developed and make it their own and make it right for their communities. That's just one example, but I think it's this idea that RIF is really committed to driving local literacy impact and supporting all of the stakeholders, educators, families, community volunteers, in driving children's reading engagement, their reading motivation, and ultimately their love of reading and their love of books. And so we come at it from a couple different angles and with a number of different tools that anybody can access for free and anybody can sort of customize for their local community's needs. So we take our national approach and scale it down.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because most of the people listening to this are going to be school educators, principals, mostly some teachers. If a principal was like, "Oh, I want my kids to love reading more and have support with my local community partners," what's the best way for them to do that and get in touch with RIF and start something like that at their local level?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So, for any individual school or school district who's really looking to build this sort of collective of partnerships and really call on all of the community partners to help support their reading culture in their school, they can certainly always contact Reading as Fundamental. The simplest is we have a contact us at rif.org email address, and they can get connected to our team. But I think another place that I'd really encourage them to look is to really look broadly into the community and see who are those people who are, again, already doing your youth serving work, already are committed to volunteerism, and already are active in hosting community-wide events, and seeing where they can call on those partners to sort of amplify their impact and amplify their activities. So again, I'll give another just a specific example. We partnered with a group who was having a community-wide street festival, a community-wide event. And there wasn't a literacy component to it, right? It was just a community-wide street fair. But, when you bring together the local civic group, the local school district, maybe the local food bank, food trucks, other partners, and really build out these events or build out these initiatives, you can really have deeper impact. So again, I think a principal or school district leader could always come to RIF and always try to look for the players in the community who are already doing something to engage families and meet families where they are and find that literacy through line.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about that example of like a street festival and how reading was brought into that. What does that look like and how was it communicated? Who was spearheading that? And at what point were you involved? Let's dive into that one a little more.
Yeah. So in a situation like that, there can be low lift and higher resources opportunities. For this one, we created a reading corner. So it was as simple as finding community volunteers who would be willing to every hour on the hour do a read aloud in a little tent and have kids and families gather and get to enjoy the power of a read aloud all together as a community. We have done similar models where we actually are able to do book distribution as a complement to that. So families are coming, they're getting to read read aloud, and maybe they're getting to hear from not just a volunteer from the community, but somebody who you can imagine a little kid would be delighted to be reading to them. It's the police chief or a firefighter or the mayor or some other community figure. There are so many people who have really embraced the call to champion children's literacy that you would be hard pressed to look to your community and ask them and not find somebody, a leader, a local sports figure. We've often looked to the sports community to serve as our guest readers. And again, you can take that simple read aloud model. And then again, we've enhanced it to when we partner with different supporters and funders, being able to add this book distribution element where kids can come then and choose books to take home, build their home libraries. And RIF is really focused on driving reading motivation. So first, you got to get them access to a book in their hands, but then we've got to extend the experience with the book and help them drive their reading joy through supplemental resources. And I say supplemental resources, and not that that sounds that fancy, but what I mean is simply a coloring sheet, a word search, anything that can help them go deeper with the text of the book and help them to really want to come back and revisit it and explore it with their families and look at the topics they were reading about. So there's lots of layers and lots of ways that somebody can approach that.
Well, and that's what I think is so cool is that you guys provide those systems and frameworks and supplemental materials to help with that. So talk a little bit about what that looks like when people say we want to partner with RIF. What do they get and how do they access it?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to emphasize what you said is that we provide those free supplemental materials. So anyone, anywhere can access Literacy Central, which is our free book resource platform. I'll call out the URL, but I'm sure we'll have it posted as well. It's rif.org/literacy-central. And Literacy Central is RIF's free book resource platform where we offer thousands of support resources for the popular and classic titles that families and educators are turning to. And so that's a platform that all principals, classroom teachers, librarians, community volunteers who are looking for great free resources to drive reading engagement, they can visit that site and they can, let's say you're having an apple blossom festival and you can find a selection of related suggested read aloud titles for apples and then all of the free printable downloadable materials for author videos and coloring sheets and pre-reading materials and post-reading materials and hands-on crafts. So that's one thing I want to be sure to mention. That's one of the most impactful ways that RIF can have such broad reach and partnerships is by virtue of our digital book resource platform. But to more specifically answer your question, a partner can come to us and we really want to customize and meet the need of the local community. So truly by contacting us at that contact us at rif.org website, we can help to understand the need. We can help point our partners on the ground to other local partners we have in their community who are aligned and trying to do that work. We can help connect them to our free toolkits and resources. And when funding and resources are available, we can double down and we can help build an event, a community-wide book celebration. So again, I want to emphasize that there's this ability to layer on support and customize support in the way that best meets the need of an individual partner. When a school comes to us and says, we want to drive literacy impact in our community, it's a conversation to say, what do you got going on? What do we have going on? And how can we align those and help in a way short-term and hopefully long-term?
Yeah, and it seems like it could be a ton of work to get guest readers, to get all these resources, but you guys make that much easier by having templates and things they can use, ways to reach out, things like that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. We really work to simplify the process. And so whether it's calling on our own network of partners, again, I'm going to use the examples of Kiwanis. We have a Kiwanis in your own backyard. Let us talk with them and see if they want to come and staff and volunteer your event and be your guest readers, or we have a relationship with the mayor's office, we can help. But to your point, we want to empower people and build capacity and help them spearhead their own local literacy initiatives. So we have another platform called Literacy Network. The URL for that is rif.org/literacy-network. And that's our free online destination for self-serve toolkits and resources and local literacy impact. So you're looking for a template letter to reach out for a funder to fundraise and support your upcoming, again, I'm going to use your upcoming street festival or your upcoming apple blossom festival. We've got a template letter there for you so that you can do that outreach and say, we want to be able to fund and support a literacy element to this festival. We've got printable, downloadable bookmarks that you can use, and event signage, and a volunteer checklist, and a read-aloud guide, and again, a book drive guide. So we really have on Literacy Network a complete comprehensive set of toolkits that anybody can call on to, again, just as you said, simplify the process and know that RIF as a national organization and our staff are always here to pick up the phone, have a conversation, and help. And we also are here to say, you as a local community, we've got a lot that you can just leverage and run with and really start to implement.
Well, the thing that's so fascinating to me is that every educator, I think, believes that reading is essential for students to find success in the rest of their lives. You might even say fundamental, if that was the name of your organization, right? So the thing is, we can all get behind this, and everybody wants to find ways that we can bring in more support for that. There's a lot of work around getting books to kids in their homes, getting people to read to them, read with them, be heard or be listeners for them reading, all that kind of stuff. What are some of the other creative ways you've seen people implement some of these partnerships and opportunities that people may not think are possible or even something they could do themselves?
Yeah, I would argue that thinking about meeting children and families where they are in the community and getting creative in that way has been one of the most impactful ways that we've been able to innovate and reach children beyond the school doors and beyond the typical, maybe it's a Boys and Girls Club or a YMCA, and they've got their programming already where they're serving children and they've got some literacy components there. But think about the other spaces where children are. The laundromat, you might be familiar with the movement to create literacy spaces within laundromats, and we've had partnerships around that. There's partnerships around literacy sort of in the playgrounds and in the parks and story walks, and that's an impactful way that we've collaborated with partners and created. It's really about infusing a culture of literacy and book-rich environments wherever children are. And first and foremost, of course, school and home, but the other spaces where children are is critically important. I am speaking with you a lot about our community partnerships, and those are sort of these other nonprofit organizations, but I would be remiss not to mention that we've had partnerships with Starbucks where we've created reading corners within Starbucks across the DC metro area. We also partnered with McDonald's and had books in their Happy Meals for a period of time. And so for us, that is kind of responding to exactly your question of where and how can you do this in an innovative way. It's thinking about all the other spaces where children are and where we can have these touch points with books and literacy and just sparking delight for them. So again, if I was going to, the other place that I haven't mentioned that I, again, would want to focus on is, of course, public libraries. School libraries are so critically important, and we want to support and amplify their work and build out the resources to support school librarians. And public libraries are such an important part, especially of summer reading. And we've got an amazing partnership with the American Library Association, particularly their Association for School Librarians, but it's really thinking of all the different people that touch a child's life. The pediatricians' offices, we have a partnership with an organization called Reach Out and Read, and we are able to look at their model of reaching children through their doctor's well baby visits. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, just to say we've really seen success in looking at the community and talking with them and sort of auditing what's happening and how can we leverage those touch points across a child's life throughout the week.
I love that. And one of the places that you didn't mention that I found that was really cool was somebody, I don't remember the woman's name who started it, but she created these in partnership with Alaska Airlines, these bookshelves in airports in Alaska where kids could take a book to read on the plane and then transport it basically to their next destination and then put it on the shelf at that other airport. And that was a really neat thing, especially in Alaska where so many people have to fly as the only way to get between places. That was a neat idea that I really liked. And my kids enjoyed it when we lived there and we flew from place to place, and they would be excited to see that. Another one that I think is really cool are libraries that are set up in front of people's houses on these little
The little library.
little libraries. And here in Spokane, where I live now, there are a lot of those, and my kids have really enjoyed going and finding books and bringing them back to our house and letting them sit around for a long time. And then finally, one day, just deciding to read it and saying, wow, I really like that book. And they never would have seen it otherwise. And so just this idea of having literature around, having it easily accessible, and making it a way making a way that it's easy for kids to get a hold of it and start to love it. So those are some of like the partnerships and the places and the ways that we can do it. What else around events or connections that you would like to add to what we've talked about already?
Yeah, the other thing that I think community partners play such a critical piece in is the idea of just awareness. And I'd say awareness of the issue that children's literacy is an issue. And in fact, RIF refers to it as a children's literacy crisis in America, given that 25 million children in the US cannot read proficiently. And we know what long-term effects that has for them in school and beyond. And so that's a trajectory that we're really focused on addressing and changing. And we can only do that when we shout it from the rooftops and we have our partners on board with that. So again, we've got these fantastic partners who have joined us in driving awareness of the issue, and then driving awareness of, I'd say, the importance of the joy of reading in that. So we haven't talked a ton about that, but for RIF, our core philosophy focuses on the idea that when you develop a joy of reading for children, that they love books, that they become those book people, those book lovers, that they then are going to read more frequently, have increased reading motivation, and ultimately become more proficient, skilled readers. And so for us, we need to both say there's this big issue at hand for America. And we know that their educators are doing amazing work inside the classroom, teaching the fundamentals of reading skills. And then we have to complement that and build on top of it with developing this love of reading, because when children love to read, they'll be more motivated to read and they'll read more proficiently. And so I share that these partners are such good messengers and share our commitment to the cause and help to get the word out about the issue and then the solutions. And so we've talked today a lot about some of the solutions that RIF offers in our programs and content offerings. And it's really having these great partners who can help share that there's free content and free resources and free toolkits that all of their local chapters and affiliates can call on, and that their audiences can leverage. So I think that's a really key part of our partnerships as well, is just as much as having all of them as part of our collective on the ground, that they also are using all of their channels to join us in our rallying cry.
Yeah, and that topic of the joy of reading was the topic of my conversation with Dr. Erin Bailey from RIF a few weeks ago, that you can find in the link to the show notes here at transformativeprincipal.org. So that joy of reading is exceptionally important, because when you like doing something, you do it more. And that seems so simplistic, but if kids love reading, they're going to read more. And, one of the things that I just love to talk about and why I'm so passionate about this is that kids who love reading find excuses and reasons to do it. And from the early age of kids driving in the car, recognizing letters on billboards, to reading billboards out loud, to not seeing the billboards because their nose is stuck in a book, that's a powerful transition for a parent to see their child going through. And it's exciting to watch that, and exciting to see kids be excited about it and be joyous about it. And it's such an unlocking mechanism for them, and just so powerful. So I love what you're doing there.
I will just share a personal
Yes, that's what I was hoping for.
Yes, I have a 7-year-old who has been able to read for a couple years now, but it was this summer that she will not go to bed without her flashlight, because she wants to be able to get in bed and read her book for a little bit before she falls asleep. And so before going to bed, she's like, Mom, do we have my flashlight in here? And am I all set up for my reading? And for me, as a longtime employee of Reading is Fundamental, I've been in a book club that's 11 years strong. I am a very avid reader. To see her like making sure that she's got her book and her flashlight before she gets into bed at night is giving me such an immense joy, and it makes me feel like as a parent that I have instilled in our family this idea that reading is special, reading is a part of our everyday life, and reading is relaxing and a fun part. And so I think that it's been exciting both to, again, for her to grab that flashlight and for her to start to say, like, these are the books that I want to be reading. I love these books. And so it's been very joyful for me, I have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. So, last question.
Yeah.
So our audience is principals. What can principals do this week to inspire literacy within their schools?
Great question. So I'd say this week, I just know that principals are already so laser focused on the school year starting up again, all that's ahead of them. And I know that there are already very key moments when literacy is top of mind. And maybe it's March and National Reading Month or Read Across America Day. I think right now what they could do is thinking about infusing literacy every single month. And I have to imagine they already are. I have to know that the school library is already such a special place and that there's so many reading initiatives going on in the classroom. But, the more that they can start to talk about literacy as a everyday important thing and really focusing on it both with their student and their families and visiting RIF's resources, sharing RIF's resources with their teachers, I'd say, letting the educators know that we have this turnkey free resource where we've vetted and curated high quality diverse content that helps them help their kids. We want to make that easy for them. So I'd say as school leaders are going back to school right now, just knowing that RIF is here as a partner for them, starting to share that Literacy Central and Literacy Network link with their educators and letting them know that this is a resource that they can use all year round and not just some of those maybe more key time frames that come to mind. And I guess I'd add one more thing is just to say,
Okay, do it.
think about just to think about the partnerships. I mean, I'm here today to talk about the value of community partners and the tremendous impact it's had for RIF as a national organization furthering us. And so I'd say look around in the community and think about who those partners are that you can bring on board. I know their principals are so busy, but looking to your PTA, the school's PTA, and looking to the local community organizations, and then looking to RIF and seeing how I can connect the dots, because there are so many willing players and they all certainly play a role in a child's literacy development.
Yeah, so good. Great stuff there, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you've already provided some resources, just want to encourage everybody, if you want to connect with RIF and have some more focus, some support around literacy, or just someone to brainstorm with about how to do more literacy in your school or your community, check out rif.org, rif.org. And once again, I'm so excited for this partnership with RIF for National Literacy Month. This is fantastic. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being here and being part of Transformative Principal today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you.